There we are.
Okay. Welcome to the Town of Litchfield's Board of Selectmen's meeting for January 13th, 2014. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The board is just coming out of a paperwork and manifest review. First item on the agenda is review of items for consent. In the items of consent is the corrected minutes for December 9th, 2013, the minutes for December 23rd, 2013, the minutes of December 30th, 2013, a veteran's tax credit application, and a accounts payable manifest for 2013 of $52,772.68. And accounts payable for 2014, crazy month we'll have, with 2 split years, $32,320, and then a school transfer of $1 million. Payroll manifest was for $43,370.67. We have one item that was removed, which is the confirmation for National Regional Solid Waste Management District. Just need to verify the reps want to participate. That's it.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move approval of the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion?
Yes, can we add into the consent agenda the appointment of David Mellon to the, as a representative?
That's fine.
Yeah, there's no rush one way or the other. Dave's already there, so we can just wait. I have to send the whole form back, so
Okay.
yeah, there's no huge time frame rush.
I didn't know if the term expired.
Yeah, if it was 2 different forms, that would be fine. It's one form, so
Yeah.
that's why I pulled it out. All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 4-0-0. Request for any other items for other business. Is there anything else we want to add to the agenda for this evening?
I would like to add, I need to talk about the rec, so if you want to add that.
About the rec?
Yeah, about acceptance of a donation to the rec department.
Okay. Anybody else have anything else? All right, so we'll add that to the other business toward the end of the meeting. Just so you know, public input will start after 6:30. We'll move into the administrative report, new business. 2011 Health Trust surplus.
2011 Health Trust surplus at the end of the year, very end of the year, received notice that Health Trust is returning an additional portion of surplus from 2011. The total amount of return is $5,778.78. As we've done with the others, we need to allocate this for employee and retiree share, as well as a portion that we retain for our share. Check will be issued in August from Health Trust, and our payments to employees, retirees will follow. Practically, what this means is we need to revisit the budget and change a line in personnel administration to $8,754, because this is where we gross appropriate this. And then step 2 is we actually need to go back and revise our revenue projection to include that number as well, and bringing a new bottom line revenue to $2,183,620.
So, made the budget committee aware of this, so they know we have to deal with this after the hearing. We need to open, which line in personnel?
Personnel is 401-4155-10-210.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we reopen account 4155.10 dash, wow. We reopen account 4155.10.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 4-0-0. So the account's now open. So we need to modify line 210 to what's the total amount now?
It
87?
is, I'm sorry, I'm jumping between,
54.
yeah,
8754.
87, yep. 8754.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Take a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded to increase the line to 8754. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained, motion carries 400. So now the new bottom line, ooh, this gets weird.
Well, yes. The selectmen's new bottom line is 502,597.
So before we vote the bottom line, let me also update the board on another action that happened at the Budget Committee. So this board, in the end of December, approved the wage plan, and we put aside and added to the budget $30,000 to help fund year one costs of implementation of a 3-year plan. The Budget Committee made the request to add it, the Budget Committee did not get a second, it died. So there is no funding, so we don't have the $30,000. The $30,000 is not included in the Budget Committee's budget. So I guess we can still vote our bottom line, because ultimately it is our bottom line. They'll have to make the same adjustment, and they'll keep it where they're at, minus the $2,000 difference. All right. I'll make a motion, we approve the bottom line budget, the bottom line of the Board of Selectmen's budget of $502,597.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion.
500 and,
502,597. That's our number,
for the health.
for personnel.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Yeah,
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 400. So that concludes that one, and now we gotta make adjustments to the revenues? Did you already make it in here yet?
Nope.
Because we can just vote the new bottom line.
Yeah, I just gave you a new bottom line on this one. The new bottom line for revenues is $2,183,620,
How come it hasn't updated yet?
because I haven't added it in.
Put it in there, please.
You haven't voted on it yet.
I can't. All right, 2 million, what was it again? Sorry. 2 million what?
183,619.
Yep, 2,183,619.
Okay.
And if you
All right.
refresh, it's there now.
So moved.
So moved, seconded.
Fine.
Motion made and seconded, discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries 400. I'll forward this action to the Budget Committee afterwards, so they know that we did it. Again, we did give them a heads up on it, so they're aware of it. So that takes care of the 2011 Health Trust, right?
That takes care of 2011 Health Trust.
All right, next is the used oil grant application.
Used oil grant application, yes.
We did this last year, too.
It's been 2 years, actually.
Was it?
2 years ago, we used the state DES as a used oil grant program for offsetting costs related to collecting and recycling used oil. We used it 2 years ago for the oil burner in the kennel. And nice thing about this program is it pays 100% of project costs and items for products for managing at waste oil recycling. Dave Mellon's recommending we add an oil filter crusher to more efficiently and safely handle filters. Crusher unit's about $1,200. As part of the application, he's included a stand, oil dry supplies and pads, a spill kit, and a drum funnel for actually using to fill the used oil heater more efficiently. So all told, all of those parts add up to $2,288. The grant will pay up to $2,500. Attached the paperwork for that. The action that I'm looking for is the authorization from the board to sign the contracts on behalf of the town with respect to grant contracts with New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services to complete this application.
Okay?
You will see in that grant package, they have a whole
Yeah.
extensive certification page that they want for this.
I'll move that, Mr. Chair.
I'll second it.
Motion's made and seconded to authorize the TA to contract for us. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained, motion carries 400. All right, next up is, police,
So, I
sorry.
have just a quick question, Mr.
Yep.
Chairman. Did we vote to authorize him to sign that, or do we vote to approve the application for a grant?
Authorized to sign it on our behalf. Or to go into the contract on our behalf.
That was my impression when I seconded the motion. Or I moved.
The request that I made was the authorization to sign contracts on behalf of the town with respect to grant contracts with New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services.
Okay. I didn't hear anything then about approving that we would apply for a grant. That's why I was asking.
So that brings up a question, do we need to, usually the department head goes off to the grant, but if we get awarded the grant, we have to accept it, right?
At that point, you would,
You'd have
right,
to have public
when
hearing
it's,
to accept
yeah,
it
when it's
anyway.
approved, you would do the accept and appropriate at that point.
All right. I don't think we need to do any other action then at this point.
Well, would you feel comfortable with the motion
That's fine.
also saying that, this board approves the application for the grant?
You told me that contained within your motion was that we're going to apply for the grant and that.
That was the,
Fine.
Okay.
that was the intent of my motion. I understood that was included in there.
Okay, then we're good. We are good. All right, moving on, police detail ordinance. This is something we asked the chief to put together. This is only meant to be a first reading, so Jason, you wanna?
Yeah, it was kind of short and sweet. At this point, one of the items that had come up as part of our contract was actually formalizing the detail ordinance. Chief O'Brien has drafted that ordinance, wanted to get it in front of you so you had a chance to review it, get any comments back, and then we can refine and hopefully approve at a future meeting. What this specifically lists are locations where a detail will be necessary. It says due to the dangerous characteristics of below listed roadways, to wit, blind corners, limited sight issues, heavy traffic volume, higher speed limits, steep inclines and declines, the use of police personnel and/or equipment for purpose of traffic control on Charles Bancroft Highway, Dairy Road, Hillcrest Road, Pinecrest Road, Corning Road, Albuquerque Avenue, Page Road, Talent Road, Brenton Street, Lance Avenue, Cutler Road, Corning Road, or any other roadway the police chief determines necessary to provide a safe environment for the public. Shall be required prior to the commencement of any work. Chief also has the authority to assign details to attend any public meetings or functions which he determines may potentially involve traffic-related problems or lead to a public disturbance or public nuisance or endanger public health, safety, and welfare. That piece is coming out of the authorization law as well. It goes through the format for how to request that, and it establishes a violation and fine of $250 for the first offense.
Okay. So as I said, it's meant to be a first read. Like to get it back on the schedule, say, for the February 1st meeting for approval. So any feedback, please send it along to the town administrator for,
Do you want to, on consideration, have the next Board of Selectmen address this?
This is that gray area. I feel like we all sort of stall and can't do anything for the next 3 months because we got potentially a new board coming in.
Is there any rush to?
No, if you remember, the contract has specific language around this, and this is to support that, to make sure it's all covered. That's the only reason I would say we should probably act on it now. We're the ones that generated that contract. Or we're the
Okay.
ones that are in agreement with that contract. That's my take on it.
That's fine.
I see.
If they are, the next time.
That's
they come
true.
on
I
board-
forgot about the.
Right. So, I mean, if the next seating of the board wants to address it and change it and modify it, they can do it at that point.
Yeah,
I mean, at that
okay.
point, they can have the background for that. So I'd like to see, like I said, first meeting in February, if we can, obviously any feedback or comments from any of the members, please forward along. What's that?
I said, where's our calendar?
I know, I had to go pull my calendar. The calendar's
You
missing.
all have these wonderful electronic.
I know, but the
calendars
screen
in front
size is
of
only
you.
so big.
It's one on your phone, too.
All right, moving on. Old business, default budget. I don't know how that's old business, but okay.
Default budget. Well, it's old business because we need to,
Get it approved.
we need to finalize a number.
So, Jason,
Yeah.
why don't you describe to the board and for the community how the default budget was put together?
Mhm.
And then we can go from there.
What I started with was the default budget from last year. So, bottom line number is the number that we had calculated for the default budget last year. I took, in terms of trying to make some sense out of this on a line-by-line basis, I took the allocations that we used in the construction of that default budget last year. So basically, the numbers sort of in a line that you would have been looking at this time last year. And part of that is sort of the judgment call. The bottom line is the bottom line. That's what ultimately the voters gave us to work with. Come April of this past year, you all chose to reallocate within that bottom line into some individual lines. And some of that was sort of based on, we had 4 months of experience under our belt. So, things that we had much better information on, or various anomalies that had already occurred, we had created a line for those in your sort of functional operating budget for the year. That was, so my option was to go back to,
Jason, we're falling off. We're not live anymore. It just fell off again? Okay.
my option was to go back to where we had been beginning of the year last year. So I took those numbers, went through and looked at those places where it appeared there were items that met the one-time or contractual obligation test. So when you look at the detail sheets, you'll see I took what was labeled the 2013 default budget, calculated in the column G any default changes that I could attribute to those, came up with a new total in the default budget you'll see in column H. What I also flagged, because I know it has been of interest to this board when we've looked at it in the past, there are some areas where the default budget is higher than or lower than the board's proposed budget for the coming year. And there have been times that, we've decided to count the prior year as under the one-time expense test to lower the default budget accordingly. And so what you'll see there is, all of these, sort of that default changes column is all color-coded in yellow means that the default budget is higher than the proposed budget. Red means the proposed budget is higher than the default budget. And if they're flagged that way, it means in my calculation, I wasn't comfortable at first blush calling them one way or the other, the change, a one-time expense, or a contract. The other thing that I'd point out is there are a couple things that I didn't change at all. So you know that we moved a lot of the telephone systems or charges into the IT budget in our proposed budget. We aggregated a bunch of fuel costs into general government and took them out of individual departments. In order to not further gum up the works here, I kept the original numbers in the departments where they were last year. So you won't see that movement. I just figured that was too many layers of confusion to bring them back in. So all of that in, and I'm sure, we could go through, and there will be lines where, despite the notion of, hey, this is a simple calculation, that we may disagree one way or the other. As I've calculated it right now, on the assumptions that I've made, I'm showing a default budget of $5,100,858. That compares with the Budget Committee's current budget, so again, not including the small change you made tonight, of $5,130,166.
Mr. Chairman, for discussion, I'll move amount of $5,100,858 for the default budget.
Do I have a second? I'll second it so we can discuss it. Motion's been made and seconded on the bottom line of the default of $100,858. Seconded by Mr. Lemire. Actually, moved, I second, sorry. You think I've L's on, I mean, never mind, at this point. Yeah, I know. So what's the board's, I mean, at this point, what's the board's desire? I mean, we've done last year's practice, I think walking through each one and potentially looking at what Jason's highlighted, either agreeing with him or not agreeing with him, and would probably be the best action at this point. When do we have to have a default actually done?
We need to disclose a number on Thursday night. The final number is subject to the board's approval upon signing the warrant. So you can continue to make edits, corrections, adjustments up until that point.
I mean, I'd like to, at all costs, try to get the budget committee the actual default
Yeah.
number. I don't see any reason why we can't do that, so. Does anybody have objection to that?
No, they should.
Yeah. All
Yeah,
right.
for
So,
informational purposes, they should know.
yeah, no, and you know, we sort of provided a little bit of a sneak peek into what we thought it was gonna look like. Obviously, this board had not seen it in or approved it, but this is what the number was tracking around, and we know, everybody knows our past history, that we've made some adjustments in the negative typically. And I don't see any change in that behavior, so. So why don't we start with executive? So Jason, you said the yellow was over what we're asking for.
No, yellow is, default is greater than proposed. Red is, proposed is greater than, default. Some of these are smaller than others. If you look at the fire department budget, you'll notice as priorities change, there is a sea of red and yellow moving all over the place. So, but given these are the types of areas where you normally wanted to focus, I wanted to call those out to you so you don't have to mine the numbers trying to find them.
So in the executive, our budget, is it, when you say revised, is that the
That's
budget?
yes.
It's the budget committee's number?
No, that's the selectmen's budget.
Oh, God. Okay.
I have a whole series of questions, if that
Yep.
will help.
Yep, please.
Clerical support, right now, our revised budget is $4,000, but we have a default of $81.52. Why isn't it 4,000?
That's what we're trying to, we're going to talk about reducing it.
Okay, then I'll withhold my questions.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the
The
question,
why
right?
is the same for all of them. The why is, to my mind, it did not meet the one-time expense test. So I was not going to present something that didn't meet the one-time expense test. I wanted you all to decide if you wish to apply the approach you've taken in the past. These are the lines. Do what you wish to do.
So, Mr. Chairman, I had asked about going through lines, and we seem to have started that way, and I raised a question, but how do you wish to proceed moving forward on this?
I would just get him to make the reduction. Accept our existing number or leave it the way it is from the default calculation. I think ultimately, at the end of the day, we can go to a bottom line and say that we're gonna make this line be $108,204 versus
No.
walking through it.
My only concern with that, Mr. Chairman, is that if you look at least the version I'm working off of, has a 2014 revised budget, which is a selectmen's budget, but it's not necessarily the budget of the proposed
Right.
budget to the citizens by the budget committee. Excuse me. So the budget committee could have decreased that further, or it could have done something different.
In this case, they did not.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying, based on the data I have, I don't know that. So I would, if the budget committee's number is lower, let's say that they decided to approve 3950, I don't know, make up a number, instead of 4,000, I would drop it to 3950.
So in the case of this budget, the budget committee accepted our bottom line number, which was $108,204. Which would mean they accepted the 4,000 reduction and our 321 and our 150.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion that we lower, for the default budget, that we make 4130.10 executive, bottom line budget be $108,204.
Your second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion.
So those individual reductions are going to be wherever there is a situation where the, I'll call it revised budget, is higher than the, what Jason has as a column called 214 default.
No, the 108,204 includes everything that I've flagged that is, if you take that bottom line, you're taking you're reducing the two that are greater than the proposed budget and increasing the one that,
Lower.
right, where the default is lower than the proposed budget.
Right. That's my point.
So you're taking the decreases and the increase.
My point is that you shouldn't be taking and booking an increase if the default budget, which is what our operating budget was for 2013, is lower. So, for example, if you have an operating budget of, which is the default, of $500, and the budget committee approved, or the board of selectmen, whichever the revised column really represents, of $600, we should be going with 400. Okay? But we shouldn't be bringing them up either.
Okay, so you only want to take the decreases in shorthand.
Well, that's
is
what I'm
that-
trying to
Well,
hash out.
where there's actual contracts or other costs we know, we shouldn't, right?
Okay, but of what I've flagged as, I mean, I've given you contracts and other things. What I've flagged now are the things that were not contract and what I did not see meeting the one-time test. So if you want to take every place where the proposed budget is less than the default budget, and ignore everything where it goes up, the short answer is plug in everything that I
I don't think
flagged
we
as
can do
yellow.
that. This one is clear, because this is fine. I mean,
Right, but then what you just said is the 108,204, it includes an increase. So if you want to obscure that, then I should only add in those things that are yellow.
includes an increase over,
It's small money, but down in 810,
it's $100.
it's $100, or it's $70.
But is the increase based on,
No. There's no contract, there's no one-time.
you know what would be really helpful in this sheet would be what the default was, what the operating budget was this year.
That's column C. That's what we,
Column C is 112,040. That's not what we had operated, that's not what we were operating under. Was it?
yeah, that's what we were operating under. That's what we operated under this year. So column C is your revised sort of effective operating budget. Column D
No,
is,
see, I have it as 108,788. That's what I'm saying, maybe I'm confusing it. The default budget, if I look at the 2014 budget sheets, column D, which is 2013 default budget,
Mhm.
the bottom line of that budget is 108,788. That's what
Okay.
that's what we received for the default budget in that category, in that account.
okay.
I have 111.
Where are you? No, that's what I'm saying, this is where we're screwed.
Okay,
This is, yeah, Jason, something's wrong with the calculations, my friend.
okay.
Because I've got 111, the same as Mr.
It is,
Mayor.
it is, but I'm looking at the other live sheet. I'm wondering if there's something happening in the cross pollination here.
I got the same thing you got.
Yeah, and I don't want to short the accounts.
No, and I
either.
know, I'm looking, so there's two different sheets, right? The default one's one you guys are looking at. I agree with that. It says 111,688. What I'm saying is, if I look at the 2000, this budget here, which is what we operated under, The 2013 column, which is the default budget,
Mm-hmm.
said it was 108,788.
Okay.
Do you see what I'm saying, Jason?
Yeah, I do. I see what you're saying. I will admit now that the columns that I focused on when I copied over to make sure everything reconciled was the column D, the 2013 default, because I had to go back and pull those numbers in from before. The board's proposed budget, and the default changes, default budget calculate from that. So column C, I will freely admit, I didn't spend a lot of attention because I almost didn't even include column C.
So what is revised again?
The revised budget,
Column C. I'm looking at the sheet default 2014, column C.
column C was going to be where, what was this year's functional operating budget, so your April approved budget.
So in other words, that is the default budget adjusted line item by line item.
That's the default budget, line item by line item, adjusted to deal with whatever changes we made along the way. And
And shouldn't that be what we base the default on?
That's what I was why aren't we using that number?
That's why I'm,
okay, well, okay, well, let's go back to the fundamental question, and this is where there are two bases you can come from if you want to try to do a line item analysis. You can do the April readjustment of the budget you did, which had various other sort of one-time things, or you go back to the line item that you looked at this time of year that comprised the voters for what the voters voted on. I built this entire calculation on what we would add it up to what we took to the voters, not our revised April budget. If you, I can do the revised April budget, but none of these are based on that.
I guess I'm confused. The voters gave us a default budget, which was 49,
Right.
whatever the number was. Yes, in April, this board took an action to re-level out the accounts and assign dollar appropriations to each department to ensure we were operating correctly. To me, that's the budget. That's the budget that our departments were operating with, so that's numbers we should be working within.
At the end of the day, I don't care which one we work off of per se, because the board impaneled in April will, if it goes to default, will do the same thing anyways.
Correct.
But but what I'm confused about is if the 2013 column C revised is the default budget adjusted in April, why isn't that number exactly the same as the 2013 default budget? On my sheet, I've got $5,045,111, and I have a 2013 default as $4,974,847. They should be the same.
Yes, they should be the same.
That's what, unless.
Okay, I'll say it again. Column C, I did not intend to use when I created this. I did not go back and reconcile what copied across, what changes came. If you need to have that, I need to go back and reconcile all those numbers. Column D is the column that was accurate. I never went back and shut off column C.
Column D is the one that's accurate after we leveled in April.
No, column,
That's what was presented that was within the paperwork that created the default budget before.
that was what was in the default budget that we, yes.
So the $4,974,847 should match the warrant article that was
Yeah.
voted by the citizens.
Column
last March.
D,
Yeah, I mean, I have I have all the confidence whether the bottom line matches. I'm just,
okay.
Try to make sure the department's
Column D is the column I based this analysis on. Column D adds up. I should not have displayed column
Okay,
C,
then
or
hide-
I should have gone back and reconciled column C. There was a couple
Hide-
problems in there.
hide column C.
So we should, my opinion is we should ignore column C.
That's perfectly fair.
But, and so the analysis is based on the numbers, the line item numbers you did at this time. And honestly, part of the reason I did that was what you approved in April captured 4 real quarters behind us, some of which we had weird and unusual things that have happened.
I think we understand that. I just, the C column is messing me up. Especially when I look at,
Yep,
when I look at the number that's represented in the budget worksheets too.
yeah.
It's just confusing the heck out of me. All right, so we won't look at column C. So, I think that we have a motion on the table to make the bottom line of 4130.10 executive for the default budget, $108,204. That was the motion, and that was the second. Further discussion or other action?
Is that enough to take care of the contractual obligation?
The contractual obligations are all already,
Calculated in it.
they're already calculated in.
Okay, I just want to make sure that's enough to
I mean,
pay any increases that came along or that we're due to have this year.
yeah, the biggest
We're allowed
change,
to do that.
the biggest change was clerical support. We reduced that line in half.
Okay.
Um,
All right, if we're comfortable with that, I'm okay then.
So that includes all the increases for insurance and those types of items, right?
Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries, 400. Okay, 4130.30, town meeting. Oh, you already hit it, okay, good, thank you. Don't have a discussion.
So, I
So,
mean, you confused me when you hit that column on the spreadsheet, because all of a sudden I'm looking at the column and saying, wait a minute, it says revised budget.
it's all gone.
I can't win.
No, you can, don't.
So, so in terms of the wages for ballot clerks and all that stuff, the revised budget, the 2014 revised budget, how many elections we got next year? Three
Three.
or two?
Three.
Great.
Three elections and one deliberative session.
And so that's why it's increased,
That's
right?
why it's increased.
Yeah, because we got a primary, a
Right,
November election, March, and deliberative.
right. So we have that, the moderator, the voting machine programming, the voting machine maintenance contract, and the provisions related to number of elections.
I mean, the biggest change here is that this board took an action to remove the annual report and reduced it to $1,000 from $5,000 for the most part. So that's where the big reduction is in the default. So, I'll make a motion that we approve the bottom line for 4130.30 town meeting at $8,533.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Discussion or other actions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 400. Moving on to 4140.10 town clerk. Okay. This one becomes difficult.
Welcome to where your previous approach comes unhinged.
I know. All the things in red, those are all represent increases we know about?
No, those all represent increases.
Oh, sorry.
All the red represent places where the proposed budget is greater than the default budget. But did not
Oh,
meet the
okay.
immediate sort of contract one-time test.
Correct. So 150.
So is the 894 number accurate?
Yeah.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded. Discussion or other actions?
Yes, in this case now, we've got postage increasing.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering about.
We have, I'm not gonna bother with the health insurances and stuff. Software support's increasing.
And that's all that I've included. are the two insurances, software, and
Yeah, and you included those in
Postage.
there, right? So the things that were flagged was overtime, which if we can deal with that. Dues, there is a clerk justice of peace renewal that we know has to happen, right?
Mhm.
And are we obligated as a town to pay for that? I mean,
She has to be.
So why wouldn't that be put back in? That's an obligation we have to have.
Yeah, but it doesn't fall within the definition of what should go into a default budget.
It's small money anyway, we can,
Why doesn't it, Frank?
that's why I'm curious. If
It's a mandatory thing for the town clerk. It certainly does fall into.
Under what aspects?
It's a contractual item, or an item
That's
that's,
not there's
Well,
no
we're
contract
mandatory.
for that.
We're required to
well,
have it by the
required
state.
to have that.
No, you're not.
The town clerk is
To
required
be a
to.
justice of the peace.
No, she's not. Show me where under the state law that's required.
I was under the impression that's the case.
Well, I am under the same impression, sir. Because she has to certify and swear in candidates for office.
By her office, she does,
Mhm.
Correct.
but she doesn't have
She
to be a
doesn't have to
JP to
be
do that.
herself, right?
Right.
Well, okay, so if she doesn't herself, how are you gonna
I
pay
mean,
for it?
I and you and John and Kevin, as selectmen, can swear in people. That's but we're not justices of the peace. I mean, I am, but that's only because I paid for it. We do that because our office provides us that authority under state law.
Same with the town clerk.
Now, I don't have a problem paying for it, that's not my point.
I know, it does, right now, it's not factored into it, and again, it's small money, I don't think it's a lot to debate over. I'm agreeing with you.
Excuse me.
Okay, right now, we're at 94,894, right?
Right.
Any other discussions or actions?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that the board changes line 625 of that budget, on the default from 5405 down to 3300.
Do I have a second? Do I have a second? Motion fails, we'll act for a second. So, just a question, Frank?
Mhm.
We know, if you remember, this went up because we no longer, our contract with the company doesn't include the postage anymore, and we gotta pay for all that postage?
Do we have a signed contract with them?
We have an agreement, right? That's the line we're talking about, right?
Right, well, I mean, we go month by month to send out the mail-in notices. We charge a mail-in fee because we send the mail-in.
Well, in 2 weeks, postage is going to 49 cents. So why would we cut it? Postage is going up to 49 cents a letter.
My point is, we don't have a contract with them, we're using them on an at-will basis, I'm gonna call it.
But,
And the default budget is, from last year, was $3,300.
But we still need postage.
Take it, and I don't disagree with that, I'm just, you shift money around, and that's what a board would have to do.
But you're
Well-
still underfunding it.
the motion did fail without a second, so,
All right.
any other actions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor for the bottom line for 4140.10 for the default at $94,894, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No,
Abstained, motion carries 310. All right. 4150.10 accounting. So the default number is, right now it's 199,564. So help us walk through,
All right, wage change increase, health, dental insurance increase, decrease in software support costs, removal of one-time in office supplies are the items that I included. Proposed budget includes additional funds for, and these are not included in mine, overtime for secretary, bookkeeping, an increase in postage, an increase in mileage and tolls. places where the proposed budget is less than last year's default budget that I also did not remove: consulting services, printing, seminars.
So, help me out here on consulting services. Column F, what is now column F, which is a 2014 revised budget.
Mm-hmm.
The Board of Selectmen set that to 0, right?
Right?
And the consulting services was for what, Rock?
It was for Capola and Associates as
Rockefeller.
needed. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we set on, was it accounting? Line 390, accounting services, in column H to 0.
Waiting for hit return. Say a second.
I'll
Motion's made and
second
seconded. Discussion? It's matching what we've already said we were gonna do anyway. I think it's fair. Make it 0.
After the board votes.
All right, all in favor for the motion to reduce line 390 consulting services from 1,500 to 0, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 400.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to set line 550, printing, from 750 in column H to $500.
Motion's been made to reduce 550 from 750 to 500. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 400. Any other actions? Or motions?
Is the column H, Jason, totally summed up now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that the Board of Selectmen sets a default budget for accounting, account 4150.10 to $197,814.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded by Mr. Bork. Further discussion or actions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 400. All right, 4150.20, information technology.
No changes in that telephone line, even though it's dramatically different. As I mentioned, I just didn't move any telephone numbers out from any place else.
Yeah.
Software support, decrease for contract, equipment maintenance, removing contract one-time items paid previous year. The equipment leases decreased by contract. Oh, furniture and fixture is not flagged as a yellow item because in our proposed budget, I moved it elsewhere, but again,
It's in
it's
there,
sort of
right?
living here rather than there.
Yep,
The 500 really did move, so I didn't add it
In the
back.
budget, you're saying?
Yeah, I didn't add the 500 back new into where it ultimately moved.
The equipment leases is for the,
Copy
That's
machine.
just the copier printer.
and that has gone down?
That's gone down.
Okay.
Well, it's gone down because this line includes two things. If you look at the notes that we used in budget, there's a monthly lease and there's a quarterly use for supplies. We're,
Trending lower now or something?
yeah, we're using fewer supplies because we're using less paper.
Do I have a motion or any action or changes?
The 46 number is accurate? Move 46,577.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Do I have any discussion or other actions? My squirrel cage is going crazy right now. Trying to make sure nothing's gonna be overlooked. We should be fine. Okay. Hearing no other motions or actions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Actually, I'll do it 3-0-1. I'm gonna abstain. But it's workable. Moving on to 4150.40, tax collection.
Items increased are the wages, 2 insurance lines, software support, postage for the mailing of tax bills, and those are the increases that I saw meeting the test. Places where the proposed budget is greater than the default budget, so not included, are overtime and mileage and tolls. Places where the default budget was greater than the proposed budget, but also not included in my calculation, are property tax research and recording fees.
Any motions or actions?
Chairman, I'll move 92,836.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Discussion or amendments or actions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 4-0-0. Let's see, next one is assessing.
Assessing, I included the assessing software as a known increase. Didn't include, but could make the argument, the assessing services, it's a five-year contract, so, we adjusted the number to catch up this year. So,
Well, are we obligated to?
no, I mean, we're obligated to pay the big ticket in year 5. I mean, if you recall, what we did is we've been trying to catch up a little bit each
Right.
year on that, so that's why we bumped up the 2,000. So I took last year's number. Arguably, you could take this year's number because it's all in fulfillment of the big contract you have to pay in 15.
So 46,840 is, okay.
Yeah,
Good number.
yeah.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded for the bottom line for the default budget of 4152.10 assessing at $46,840. Discussion or other actions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 4-0-0. Moving on to legal expenses, 4153. So we have a bottom line default of $40,800, which is $20,400 higher than what this board set it for this year, right?
Mhm.
The chairman will make a motion that the Board of Selectmen sets a default for 4153 at $20,400.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Discussion or other actions? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 4-0-0. All right, 4155 personnel. Huh?
Hold on, one change here. The change you guys just made, I need to put into this. 8754.
I see it. You good to go?
Okay, everything
Oh,
is
okay, yeah, right, right.
magically
Thank you.
fixed.
All right, 4155 personnel administration has a new, has a default number of $472,597. Do we have any actions or motions?
So moved.
Motion's made by Mr. Lemire. Do I have a second? Do I have a second? Motion fails without lack of a second. So where we go, guys? Let's see, we got the default. Jason, there's, what's it, 25,000, oh, I see what the difference is. Okay. 7. Why is, oh, that's right, the rec commission meeting, or Winterfest meeting tonight.
Did you want the third one?
Just popped up.
What questions can I answer?
Yeah, so, folks, I'm looking through this, I mean, everything looks like it lines up. Police retirement. This has all the increases that we're aware of, all the contractual obligations we're aware of. There is, you factored in the trust return.
Yep. The only difference between the board's proposed budget and the default budget is the wage plan.
Correct.
And that's not in here.
It's not in the default, no.
It's not in the
Not in
default.
the default.
Right.
Okay.
That's why I did the 472. I mean, I agree with the wage
What's
plan,
that,
but
302 now?
Yeah, we just, it's not, we can't, at this point, put it in default. I'll try it again. Make a motion that we approve the bottom line for for 4155.10, personal administration, the default number of $472,597.
second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion or actions or changes? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 4-0-0. 4191.10 planning. We have a new default, we have a new bottom line for the default at $54,998. Variation of $914 to the positive. So let's see what this is.
Increase of wages, benefits, included, decrease in NRPC planner, which I perceived as a contract, not included, and proposed whereas less than default have been notices and ads in books and periodicals. Those places where the proposed budget is greater than default, mileage and tolls and seminars.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that line 555 of the planning board budget 4191.10 be adjusted in the default from 750 down to 460.
Motion's made to reduce line 555 down to 460.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Lemire. Discussion? It's in line with what we already allocated, so
Right.
I'm cool with it. Further, any other action? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 4-0-0. That makes the new bottom line at 54,708.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to adjust line 670 from $100 to 16 for the default. That's books and periodicals.
Okay, motion's made and seconded by Mr. Bork. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 4-0-0. We now have a new bottom default number of $54,624.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that the Board of Selectmen sets the default for account 4191.10 planning board to $54,624.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 4-0-0. Moving on to 4191.30 zoning board.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to set line 555 on account 4191.30 zoning board from 500, I guess it was,
Oh, sorry.
to $480.
If we did that bottom line,
Well, let me just do it this way.
yeah.
I'll
accept
make a
the-
motion to set line 555 from 500 to 480, line 6, I'm sorry, John,
Yep, that's all
line 670 from 65 to 16.
Right. That bottom line.
Yeah, this just gives Jason the way to put it on the budget, and it's cleaner. But yeah,
I can pretty much figure out where you're taking these, so.
Yeah.
They're
For a
all
new-
And
helpfully
810,
coded,
you wanted 0, right?
coded in yellow.
And 810-0, I'm sorry, yes.
I'll second Mr. Byron's one.
so that makes a new, all right, so motion's been made and seconded, makes a new bottom line of 666.
Oh, no.
That's what it was, that's what we said it before. With that,
If Steve Perry were here, we'd be adding or subtracting $1.
yeah, I know. Okay, further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor for the new bottom line for 4191.30 zoning board at $666, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained, motion carries 400. Whipping right through this. 4194.10, general government buildings. Has a default bottom line of $52,112.
Which is the same as last year. I made no changes.
So moved.
So I have a motion to
I'll second.
move, yeah, motion to move on $52,112 and seconded by Mr. Bork. Discussion or actions?
Mr. Chairman, I'll amend the motion to adjust line 411 from $10,140 to $7,605. And line 412 from 2580 to 2400. And line 430 from 7955 to 5775.
Do I have a second? Do I have a second? Motion fails with lack of a second. Bottom line stays at $52,112. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Abstained? Motion carries 310.
Sorry, fellas.
That's all right. All right, next, 4195 cemeteries has a default bottom line, 4195 cemeteries has a default line of $7,203.
Which is the same as last year's default.
I'll make a motion for that.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Lemire. Discussion or actions?
Mr. Chairman, I'll amend the motion to adjust line 610 from $25 to 0.
I'll second.
Okay, motion to reduce 610 to 0, seconded by Mr. Bork. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained, motion carries 400. Any other actions? So the amended bottom line is $7,178.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that the Board of Selectmen set the default budget for cemeteries, account 4195, .10 at $7,178.
Seconded by me. Motion's made and seconded, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained, motion carries 400. Next, 4196.90, town insurance has a default number of $59,528.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move the default budget for insurance, account 4196.90 of $59,528.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 400. Moving on, 4197.10, advertising regional associations. Has-
Mr. Chairman, just a question.
Mhm.
We're now back to 4 columns again.
Oh, sorry. Okay, hide your eyes from the
There you go.
offending column a moment.
It's all, the offending column's gone.
Thank you, I feel much better.
All right, so the bottom line, for the default bottom line is $13,234.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to adjust line 555 from $400 to 0. And line 560 from 12,159 to 62,29.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 400. That makes the bottom line what, 12?
Hold on.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to set the default budget for account 4197.10, advertising and regional associations for 2014 to an amount of $6,904.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 400. We're well beyond our 6:30 mark for public input. Do you have anything for public? No? And Jason, I assume you will, right? Would you prefer to wait till after all this action's done? Okay. I figured that, but I wanted to double check. All right, moving on. 4210.10, Police Administration has a default number of $1,344,792. Let's see, any motions or actions? Or changes or
I have a
adjustments?
question, if you don't mind.
Yep.
Jason, line 140, it says overtime officers.
Mm-hmm.
This'll spawn, I'm sure, an interesting debate whether overtime is a contracted item or not. So in other words,
Yep.
my question is, should the overtime be set to 71,344 rather
Right.
than 73,484? My point of view is that overtime is only done at the direction of the chief, as an example, and therefore it is not optional. It's not direct, it's not mandatory or a contract, I'll call it optional.
You know what? I'm not even gonna get into that discussion, but you can wipe out the 2140 there. I calculated that based on logic that I forgot was already baked into the 71,344.
Okay.
So, what I did, just so you know, is that what I did mechanically, forgetting that we didn't have a contract change this year, is I took the prior year and added the change in the base wage, because you were contractually obligated for the percentage change.
And
There was no wage change this year, so I shouldn't have applied that, so we'll just take that out. And we're not even, the merits of, or otherwise of your other argument, we can just,
Ignore?
for the moment, yes.
All right, so that makes the new bottom line, after that correction, at $1,342,642. Right? Yep.
Yep.
Any other actions or modifications?
We can just take a moment so we can go through it. Line 630, if you don't mind me asking a question.
Yep.
Yep.
Why did that change to 1810 from, say, 1790?
The photo isn't,
Oh, well, that was the contract, that's sort of baked into contracts, so we removed the provision that the prior year default budget had for third-party IT technology. Copier, full year of the copier maintenance contract led to an increase. Radar recertification contract led to the increase. And that should be the source of the changes.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, how about 635, vehicle fuel, we have 0? Which, I'm not, it just doesn't make sense.
Because we had moved it out.
Wait, we moved it out in the proposed budget, so you'll see the default budget includes last year's number. I didn't take it and move everything. So your proposed budget is 0, because it's all under general government buildings now for fuel.
That's fine, I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure.
Yes.
May I-
So
We didn't,
do
in
not,
some
so
half-brained
please,
idea, decide to zero out the fuel line.
yeah,
No,
please
no.
do not zero out the fuel line, because it is not elsewhere, so I know
Oh,
this.
so we need to keep that 38 there?
Yes, which is why it's in the
He just
default
felt if we
budget.
put it all back where it was, it was gonna
Right.
confuse
Okay,
the
I get it.
process, so.
Yeah.
If in fact, if we
That's
get it.
why I'm asking the question and not making
Yeah.
a motion.
Yes,
Right.
yeah, and that's also why it's not colored a lovely color.
And, line 681,
680.
which is ammunition,
Mm-hmm.
that's up to $5,010 from 4710.
Yeah,
Which
that,
is
that
what we-
last year's default was 5,010, proposed budget is 4,710.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to amend line 681 of the police department budget, the default from $5,010 to 4710.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded by Mr. Bork. Discussion?
It was made by me. and
Motion
seconded,
made
yeah.
and seconded, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Motion made by Mr. Byron, seconded by Mr. Bork. Hearing no other discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 400. New bottom line is 1,342,352.
So moved.
Motion's been made to move 1,342,352. Do I have a second? I'll second it. Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion or other further actions or amendments? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 400. 4210.50 police support has a bottom line, a default bottom line of $140,660.
Let's call that 140,650.
All right, 146.50.
I'll move that.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Mr. Lemire, seconded by Mr. Bork. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 400. 4215 ambulance has a proposed default budget of $51,500.
So moved. Sorry.
Motion made by Mr. Lemire, seconded by Mr. Bork. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 400. 4210.10 fire has a proposed default budget number of, get down there, $486,777. Do I have any motions or amendments or
So moved.
actions? Mr. Lemire is moving $486,777. Do I have a second? I will second. Discussion or actions or amendments?
This is a colorful cornucopia of changes.
Yeah, I know, and I'm looking through it. I'm just now wondering what.
You know, and this is a couple, you know, this just, this reflects
So I said that
juggling
balances one
priorities
the other.
between.
I know, I mean,
Is it
our
just-
proposed is 499,084. This is a good balance of that,
Yeah,
but
Mr. Chairman, I'll make an amendment to adjust line 391 from $9,000 to 7,600.
okay, a motion has been made. Do I have a second? Do I have a second? Motion's failed for lack of a second. Any other actions or amendments or motions? So the bottom line still is at 486,777.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to amend line 630, equipment repair and maintenance, from 24,450 to 18,120.
Do I have Mr. Byron made a
What
motion?
line was it?
630, fire department equipment repair and maintenance.
I'll second.
Motion is made and seconded by Mr. Bork. Made by Mr. Byron, seconded by Mr. Bork. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Aye.
Motion passes 301.
Make a motion to adjust line 635 from a default budget of 9305 to 8506.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Byron. Do I have a second? I will second it. Seconded by Mr. Brunel. Hate saying it that way. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
no,
Abstained?
Aye.
Motion passes 2-1-0. No, 1-1.
Sorry, I've been back at the last one. What did you just change now?
We, vehicle fuel just went to 8506 from 9305.
Okay.
That Chromebook causing you trouble? You can't get there quick enough?
I can't get there fast enough. No, I haven't taken care of the other problem yet. All right, hold on a sec.
Okay.
I'm the victim of my own formulas.
Any other actions? Right now, the default line is at 487,
Hold that thought, it's not there.
479, 648, which is
About $20,000
twenty
less.
thousand less than what we requested in operating line.
Yes, I'll make a motion to adjust line 683, medical supplies, from 2,750 to 2,500. And to adjust line 740, equipment purchases, from 23,500 to 18,000.
Do I have a second? Do I have a second? Motion fails for lack of a second.
what's the new bottom line?
479, 648.
I'll move that.
Mr. Lemire made a motion to move 479, 648. Do I have a second? I'll second it. Discussion? Double check something before we move this further. Okay. No more discussion? Anything else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Abstained?
Aye.
Motion passes 2-1-1. Okay, next is hydrants, 4220.90 hydrants. Default budget number is at $295,658. That's the calculated amount that we have from Penachuk,
Yes.
right?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Lemire, seconded by Mr. Bork. Discussion.
Why are we showing different numbers if the 2014 revised is 299, 319?
Mhm.
Why isn't that, why is there the roughly $5,000, give or take,
The,
difference?
the difference is the 299, 319 is the budget that was approved by the Board
Of selectmen.
of Selectmen that was based on our estimated price from Penachuk. We subsequently, within the past couple weeks, got their actual numbers that they expect to be billing us rather than, our
I just want to
projection.
make sure
Yeah.
that the 390,
So-
that the 295 is a firm number.
I can tie that to to the last letter I have from Penachuk.
Yeah, when we were going through this with the budget committee, we presented them Penachuk numbers that were itemized out, or itemized out till 3 years, and they set on that number to make for the year.
No, I consider this a contract that we have to
Yep.
fulfill, and I just wanted to make sure that we shouldn't be doing 299, that's all.
Nope, we're good. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 400. All right, 4241.20 code enforcement has a fault number of $79,284.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Lemire to move, the bottom line. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Byron. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 400. 4290.10, emergency management, has a calculated default number of $9,885. And I will move that. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made by myself and seconded by Mr. Lemire. Discussion?
Line 342 is software support, which is for the Code Red system. That's a contract that we have with them.
Mm-hmm.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 400. 4311.10, road agent, has a calculated default of $29,958.
In this case, the 28,238, is that?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I'll move the 28,238.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Lemire, seconded by Mr. Bork. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 400. 4312.10, road maintenance, has a calculated default of $586,291. Let's look this.
The only change that I added in was the highway block grant increase, which is the gross appropriated number.
Questions for you on street sweeping, as well as culvert replacement.
Mm-hmm.
We have a revised budget of 2,500.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll just make a motion then. 570, I make a motion that we adjust line 575 of account, what is it, highway? Road maintenance, 4312.10, from, 20,
Oh, yep, okay, sorry.
where are we here? $15,000 to a default budget of $2,500.
I'll second.
Motion made by Mr. Byron, seconded by Mr. Lemire. Discussion?
That was the 2,500 is what we
That's what
approved
we-
when we were going
yeah,
through the
That
budget.
was the proposal.
That's what I wanted to
Yeah.
ask, but
Yeah.
whatever, so
Yep.
I made the motion.
So,
Well, and we must have done it for good reason.
yeah, I think the culverts were in good shape. We got
Right,
everything
so
going.
we can go from 15 to 25.
My recollection, though, was that the road agent at some point in the past year or 2 years
had wanted to do a 4-year plan of doing like a third of the town every year. So we should still be on that, which is, therefore, I'm surprised at the 2,500, that's all.
That's not culverts, that's,
That's the markings.
that's, yeah.
Catch basins?
That's catch basins.
I'll get to that in a moment.
Yeah.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained, motion carries 400. I'd like to make I'd like to make this move the bottom line of $575,930. They basically accepting the selectmen's budget.
I'll second that. That's not taking into account Frank's,
It should have, unless I'm missing something else here.
No, that didn't adjust it.
it didn't adjust it, John.
Oh,
So when you adjust it, then I'll second you, because,
well, I'll withdraw until we figure it out. It's 573,791 is the new number, right,
Right.
adjusted?
Now, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that the Board of Selectmen adjust line 577 from $22,500 down to $12,000.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Byron, seconded by Mr. Bork. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained, motion carries 400. Yeah, I don't know. So new bottom line is 563,291. Any other actions?
Chairman, make a motion to adjust line 685, sand purchases from $10,000 down to $5,000.
If I have a motion by Mr. Byron, do I have a second? All those, no, do I have a
You
second?
can call the vote if you want.
I'm afraid this winter.
Yeah, I am too.
I'm with
Motion
I don't
fails due to
know.
lack of a second. So
Yeah.
I think, in hindsight, what we've gone through this beginning of the year, we already know that our salt budget is
Yeah,
somewhat troubled, but,
But we have a special account for that.
no, I know.
But yeah, again, and I promise this is the last time I'm gonna say this, but I feel obligated to say this one more time. You are identifying and reducing everything that is reduced, and you're choosing not to see any place where we've reallocated priorities. So, any place where a department has lowered a budget, you're lowering the default. If we had to move dollars to cover someplace else, as you see in your proposed budget, it's as if everything red doesn't exist. So, in some cases like this, where we've moved big numbers around, your net effect is now dropping significantly below your proposed budget.
Well, my
And
point,
you're now $20,000 below last year's default budget by this exercise.
my point is that I'm trying to follow the state law, which says that unless we have a contract, okay, that we should set it the same as last year's default, or last year's proposed budget. In that
Which
case,
is
it was our
$10,000.
default.
It was $10,000.
You're not following that.
No, you're not.
You're not following that at all.
Let me finish. With the exception, which this board has agreed to in the past, and tonight as a matter of fact, of if we have elected not to spend the same amount as last year's budget, that we would adjust the default to match that.
And I will make the point that I make every year. You make your point, I'll make my point, that what we're doing is, every time that there is a place that there is an adjustment in the proposed budget, if the number goes down, you want to subtract it in the default budget. If those numbers have gone up in the proposed budget because you moved from buying pencils to buying erasers, that doesn't exist. So,
But it doesn't exist under state law.
well, with all due respect, I'm not entirely sure that your reductions all meet the one-time test either.
Right, but we've also agreed that it's been a practice we have. It makes sense. I know, there are certain accounts that it gets very concerning, because we know those accounts will run tight if certain factors happen, and the law is supposed to kind of give and take. And if we don't follow the law exactly, the give and take is being played with, and that's what you're concerned about.
Because this goes out on a form that I have to explain all of the changes, and, I'm not entirely sure that some of these meet the one-time test. I'm willing to accept that if this is the direction of the board, it is your number and your budget.
But this is this is an open and honest, full employment for the town administrator filling out forms. Operation.
That's not his only job, but that's a nice way of summarizing it, I guess.
I think we've
So-
gone low enough. I'm gonna do 563, 291.
And I'll second it. Motion's been made by Mr. Lemire and seconded by myself. Further discussion or amendments? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Abstained, motion carries 3-1-0. That makes the new bottom line, the default bottom line for the road maintenance is $563,291, which is, okay. Next, 4316.30, street lighting, has a default of 11,500.
Is that through a contract that we have with that,
No.
It's based on
It's not really a
usage.
contract.
The contract is the rate price per unit, it's not, you will
it's
burn
not, yeah, okay.
X amount of lighting per year.
So 10,900 would be adequate, huh? 10,925.
Sure. And that's the budget you approved.
Well, no, the reason I'm asking is because.
I didn't recommend that budget to begin with, so I'm not gonna say it's adequate, but that's the budget
Yeah.
you approved for next year.
Because it said budget anticipates removing streetlights.
Yes. The budget you approved, will likely mean removing streetlights.
Oh, I see. I'll move 11,500, Mr. Chairman.
Motion's been made. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Bork. Discussion?
Don't want to move them. They're a safety issue as far as I'm concerned.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No,
Abstain? Motion carries 3-1-0. All right. Solid Waste Administration, 4321.10, has a calculated default of $378,205. Any actions, motions, changes? Let's see here.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to adjust line 410, electricity, from a default number of $6,600 down to $5,640.
The rates are going up, aren't they, at the end of the month?
Didn't they already go up?
Well, that was,
Yeah.
that was our calculated number anyway.
PSNH, they're going up, but we're not tied into PSNH.
So I have a motion by Mr. Byron. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bork seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 4-0-0.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we adjust line 430 from 3960 to 3710.
Motion made by Mr. Byron. Do I have a second? I will second it. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 4-0-0.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to adjust line 630 from $10,560 to $5,360.
Do I have, Mr. Byron made a motion, has a motion, do I have a second? I will second. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 4-0-0.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to set line 636 diesel fuel from 2880 to 2310.
Mr. Byron, motion from Mr. Byron, do I have a second? Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Bork. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 4-0-0.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to adjust line 693 from 95,187 to 88,068.
Motion made by Mr. Byron. Do I have a second? I'll second it. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 400.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to adjust line 694 from 98,015 to 93,955.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Bork. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 400. So we have a new bottom line of $360,046.
I'll move that, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made by Mr. Lemire to move the bottom line. Do I have a second? I'll second it. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 400 for 360.46.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion the Board of Selectmen adjusts the bottom line for account 4411.10 Health to a default number of $1,636.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Byron, seconded by Mr. Lemire. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 400.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion the Board of Selectmen sets as default account number 4411.20 Mosquito District to $30,040.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Lemire. Discussion or amendments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 400. 4414.10 Animal Control. The calculated default is 15,836. Let's see. I will make a motion that we accept, move the bottom line of $15,122.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded by Mr. Lemire. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 400. Health agencies, 4415.
We only have one in here, right?
The 1900, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion that we move the bottom line for 4415 health agencies at $1,900.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Lemire. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 400.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to set the bottom line default number for welfare account 4445.20 at $20,000.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Byron, seconded by Mr. Lemire. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 400. 4520.10 Parks and Recreation has a calculated default at $90,159.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move 84,880.
Motion made by Mr. Lemire to move $84,880. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Bork. Discussion? Hearing none? Sorry?
No, it just accommodates the, also.
Here, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 400.
Jason, a question on library. You've got the default proposed at 218.
Yep.
That I'm assuming leaves things like health insurance, dental, and all that stuff?
That includes the health and dental. That's why I broke those out separately. So the 2193 is the sum of the health and the dental. So it is last year's plus
The additional.
the health and dental.
Okay, that's what I wanted to find out. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'll move the default for the library, account 4550.20, to $218,192.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Byron, seconded by Mr. Lemire. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 4-0-0.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to set the default number for patriotic porpoises at account number 4583.10 at $902.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Byron, seconded by Mr. Lemire. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 4-0-0. 4611.20 Conservation Commission.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to set the default number for conservation, account 4611.20 to $2,181.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Byron, seconded by Mr. Lemire. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 4-0-0.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to set the default number for debt service, account 4723.10 at $1. Just leave it at that.
Seconded. Motion made by Mr. Byron, seconded by myself. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 4-0-0.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to set the default number for revenue at.
No.
We don't have to set the revenue, right? That's right.
No.
So now,
He do.
yeah, I'm like, I didn't think we did neither. So right now, our,
But let me guess, in this case, you'll only take numbers that go up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
well, of course, because that offsets the tax side. That's perfectly fine. All right, so our calculated default right now, as will be communicated to the budget committee tomorrow when I sum it up and print it up and send it over to them, with Jason's help, obviously, will be $5,006,611. Okay? Basically a variation of $124,000. Okay.
Do we have
Do you
to
think
take a
that's too
final
high?
vote?
Think that's too high?
No.
Okay.
No. Yeah, we do. So we need to,
All right, I'll move that number.
so we're gonna, Mr. Lemire moves the bottom line now at $5,006,611. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Byron. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstained? Motion carries 3-1-0. All right, so that's that. No more action left on default, right? I think not. Let's take a break from the action for a minute. Let's open up for public input at 7:45. If there's anybody in the public like to speak, please come forward. State your name and address. He said he has no public input.
Good evening, Jason Garrett, 11 Perry Court. I'm going to, once again, so folks at home who aren't live, but hopefully on replay get this, I'm gonna read the default budget language in RSA. It says, "The default budget is used in the subdivision means the amount of the same appropriations, not level of service or what we think something will be, but the same level of appropriations as contained in the operating budget authorized for the previous year." Everything in this language speaks of backwards, nothing forward. Reduced, and here's the key part. There's 4 things in it, and they're delineated by commas, right? So everything between the commas is one thing. So you have reduced and increased, as the case may be, by debt service. So if your debt service went up, then it's got to go up. If it goes down, it goes down. Contracts, that's number 2. And other obligations previously incurred or mandated by law. That's one thing. Previously incurred or mandated by law. Previously mandated by law. That's all in the same sentence, okay? So if something is previously incurred or mandated by law. That's the next one. Or reduced by one-time expenditures contained in the operating budget. So if you went out and bought a bunch of police cars, that's a one-time expenditure. That expenditure goes away in the next default budget calculation. Now, we all understand there's a big unknown about the next year. Unfortunately, the law doesn't grant us the, geez, we better do it in case. That's what the proposed budget's for. We send that to the people and say, look, folks, you elected us to keep our eyes on this. This is what we believe our costs are going to be, and this is what we propose for next year. They may come back and go, yeah, I understand that. No. So the law provides us for a status quo, and that's what the default budget is. I saw now, I didn't have an opportunity to see what you guys were looking at tonight, but it sounded a lot, it was about half and half. Half of Mr. Byron's motions failed. I'm assuming he was using the same logic over and over and over again, but I don't know, because I wasn't able to see what he was trying to move. The important part is that, again, it's not about a feeling. It's quite simple. Whether or not we agree with it is not the point. It's just got to be what the law says. Just a couple of questions, because I kept hearing the same thing was, we don't want it to be underfunded. Unfortunately, it could very well be underfunded, because the law says that you have no choice at that point if the voters select the default budget, or they don't select the proposed budget. That's where then you are allowed to go to the bottom line, because if it is underfunded, then you have to choose and reprioritize, which is what you guys do every year in April. You take the monies that were authorized and you prioritize it, create the new operating budget. And again, I'm hoping in the future, and I don't know how difficult that is, but like tonight's agenda was not posted. I was hoping to see what was on there. And I know the school board provides the documents that you're going to be discussing, so at least folks have an understanding of what's going to be happening at the meeting. We can come prepared to discuss something. It's hard listening. I'm in the room, and it's hard to follow because we don't have them, if they're available.
If I can interrupt 1 second.
Yeah.
So the agenda typically posted has a portal site, has all the same documentation, but you are being paid by you're a town employee right now being paid to run the cameras.
I'll deduct the time.
I want to make sure people realize, you're talking
Yeah.
about reference. I would expect you not to be able to reference during the meeting because you're here recording the meeting.
I'll
So,
deduct the time.
That's fine.
Thanks. Let's
But
see.
just so that, it is usually there, and it's typically there, and there is a portal link that's typically part of the.
Okay,
live agenda.
that's cool. I haven't seen it. That's all. I was there tonight and I just didn't see it.
Mhm.
And that was, oh yeah, okay, so the other thing is the payroll increases that are in the default, are those the contracted payroll increases, or are those what you think step increases will be and the benefits associated with it?
There's two. Those where there are contracts, it is following the contract.
Right.
The remaining ones are the step increases under the old prevailing wage plan.
Correct.
For those people that have hit
Understood.
one of the benchmarks that are in there. So
Right,
there's
so
no
it's-
sort of forward-looking, it's sort of the past.
Right, but it's not contracted. It's what was the pay plan policy.
Right.
Guidelines.
The expectation year after year, right.
Okay. And, because it wasn't clear, were the police cruisers taken out of the default?
The lease is there, or our contract will operate for the lease is there. I believe.
No,
Oh, no,
no, the
Carry the other one,
prior
right.
year, the prior year level of spending in the default was there. So to translate that into real numbers, so the prior year default number in that line was 34,429. So that is the level of spending from the prior year that was carried over, which is less than the contract that the board entered this year, and obviously doesn't have the provision in the proposed budget has for additional vehicle.
Right, but it's the same level of appropriation is the point.
Same as the prior
right.
year,
That's what
yeah.
I meant when I asked it, yeah.
All right, well, thank you.
Anybody else from the public like to speak or ask a question or? No? Closing public input at 7:50, right? Yeah, 7:50. Moving on the agenda, next is warrant articles.
Warrant articles.
So where are we?
Three things to look at here. Got to look at Article 4, Article 11, and Article 13.
Article 4.
Why don't we look at Article 4 first? That's actually probably the easiest. I got some feedback from DRA that they would prefer a rewrite on the article. Everything else passed with flying colors, but they, the curse of providing a little information boxed us into having to gross appropriate a grant we haven't received and may not ever receive. So,
Where did you hear that first?
I know. It's not the way that council and I wanted to do it, but DRA, in the battle between all of those, DRA always wins. So basically, we just reworked it so it shows the gross appropriation amount for the contract, and it says that, we would raise and appropriate the whole sum, so we're covered if the grant comes in for the air packs. We would raise $21,000 from taxation, then the remaining from the grant with the towns that are participating. Goes on to say if the grant's not received, the amount to be raised and appropriated will be reduced to $21,000. And, hold on a second. Where did she sneak that in there? Oh, no, that's fine. And the expected grant funds will be raised and appropriated at a future town meeting. So it's sort of the same logic we had. If the grant doesn't come through, we're gonna have 21 in hand. We gotta find a way to make up the 186 difference. And it's still non-lapsing.
So procedural question, do we have to revote the wording again?
It wouldn't hurt.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Okay, motion made to approve the rewrite of Article 4. Seconded by Mr. Bork. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes, motion to recommend passes 4-0-0. That's gonna change the recorded recommendation, correct? And which means now it has to go back in front of the budget committee for them to revote it also, which is fine.
Yeah, it's fine. I think we should make sure that they understand that
Yeah,
the number.
the monetary
net
thing
effect-
is not any, there's no difference.
Right, we're not asking for more or less money. The net effect is still the same.
All right, which one you want to take next?
So let's take Article 11. Let's
Article
take them in
11.
order. And Article 11. So here's the background on Article 11. 3 years ago, we set up the Vacation Accrual Trust Fund. It predated the start of earn time in the police contract, town's personnel policy. So the authority to use those funds for the cost of the buyouts provisions that we have in both of them isn't clear. Could be argued they're consistent with the theory of the fund. Council's suggestion, though, is to realign the fund with the purpose clearly listed, because right now it was sort of implied from the fund. So, that said, what this does is jump through hoops in two ways. Basically, what we're looking to do is discontinue the vacation accrual trust fund, return the balance to the general fund. And that balance is 56, at the end of the year, was 59,629. And then to see if we will establish the earn time accrual expendable trust fund under the same purposes to cover earned but unused vacation time. Yes?
Go ahead, Frank.
Finish, and I just want to go back and
Oh.
I want to ask a dumb question.
Okay. And then the purposes are now clear that it's for covering the same things, resignations, retirements, then it clearly says, and buyouts of accrued earned time. And we will raise and appropriate the sum of the 59,629 to put in the fund. That is coming from the fund balance, because the first half of the article closes the old fund and dumps the money into the fund.
So basically, you're changing the name from vacation to earn time.
I'm closing one fund and I'm making a new fund with the full range of purposes. Yes, sir.
Am I recognized with the
Yes, Frank, you can.
Sometimes people jump in and try
I know,
to.
it's okay, go ahead.
My question is, you're doing a lot of work to basically say that you want to use a fund for the purpose of paying off the earned time fund.
Right.
Why not just put a simple warrant article in, and I'm sure you're going to have a good answer for this, that basically says that you're adding to the purposes of the vacation accrual expendable trust fund.
Yep.
The ability to pay, do you see what I'm saying?
It is, and I'm
Rather,
gonna-
rather than
Yep.
close a fund, create a fund, because if you get caught with a no,
you can't do it.
Well, no. Well, if I get caught with a no, nothing happens.
Right.
Which I'm okay with. Do you want, and let me tell you why I did this. And this is purely mechanical, and this is because of law. I mean, this is what I have in my, I did put it in my notes. The reason that this is unwieldy is the simpler structure that you proposed requires a 2/3 vote.
Why does it require 2/3?
Because
repurposing
changing
of
the
the
purpose of
account.
a capital reserve, even if it is expanding a purpose very similar to it, requires a 2/3 vote.
Yep.
2/3, and this is one of those areas where the law's never caught up with the 3/5 standard that we use for supermajority and everything else at SB2 town meeting. It just seemed a really ridiculous way to try to clarify something that is kind of in the same ballpark anyway. It's not like, shall we take the money that we were saving for a police station and buy the town administrator an SUV? You know, we're not radically different. So that's why I'm closing one fund and
Why do
opening
you
a
want
new
an
fund.
SUV?
We found out the hard
Try
way.
driving a Prius.
We wanted
That
to
was your
change the
choice.
fund from fire to fire and ambulance
Yeah.
replacement. So we had to go through
Yeah.
the hoops and they had to go to a 2/3 before we knew that we could have done it this way.
The fact that
And-
2/3 law is out there and it doesn't match any other, this is held to a higher standard
Right,
than
than any
any
of the
other
others.
supermajority for town meeting. Borrowing at
Right.
3/5 is easier than changing a purpose.
Right, changing the purpose is incredible. As soon as you change that name, that's it.
And what's
2/3.
what is it, just a simple majority for
And
race
this
members?
is a simple
Simple
majority.
majority for anything.
If we were proposing something radically different,
Yeah.
I'd say, okay, let's have a real, let's open it up and have that kind of conversation. This is kind of keeping it in the same family. It's kind of clarifying the same use of the bucket. I just think
Our
2/3.
poor police chief wanted to repurpose a revolver gun to tasers. Change one word?
2/3.
2/3.
Now, if the legislature would like to propose a bill to have the capital reserves at least coincide with the SB2 levels,
Yeah.
if only we could mention that to somebody in the
Convince
House.
to a rep, yeah.
Yeah, I know. Mr. Chairman, I'll move to recommend Article 11 as written.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Lemire, seconded by Mr. Bork. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Excuse me, abstain. Motion carries 400. I'll add this to the list for the budget committee, because I'm assuming that, yeah, they have to see it, right?
Yep. Yeah,
Yep.
it's just technically an appropriation
Yep.
there.
Yep. So next one is what, Article 13? Right?
Article 13, yes. We somewhat punted on this last time. This was the the cap on the conservation fund. We had been looking at the notion of sort of having that secondary placeholder fund where the funds, everything over $1 million would go. And what we discovered is that that's all well and good. They'll go there for a year, and then they have to be moved out by town meeting, or they immediately revert back to the general fund, or if your proposed use is defeated, they go back to the general fund. So, I left it last that we dropped that altogether, but weren't entirely sure where else we wanted to go with this. So, you can, within sort of this umbrella, you could put that separate fund in, use it as a placeholder for the year, and then a year later, you'd have to present the other article to move it someplace else or do whatever. So you could put the first level back in, and then the point you actually have money there, propose to do something with it. You could cap it and have all excess immediately go to the general fund. Skip this article altogether. Something we hadn't talked about, but you could probably fiddle with, I think, is you could adjust the formula. So, and I apologize because this occurred to me as I'm sitting here with my mouth open, but when it exceeds $1 million, you could, perhaps you could adjust the formula to be 40, 60, or some other number until such time as the balance changes. you can see I was at a bit of a loss because I wasn't quite sure where you wanted to go next with it.
Yeah, and Frank, I think this was one of your ones you
The
brought
whole
forward.
purpose of it was to get the Conservation Commission to start looking at doing something with the
Understood,
money, rather than letting it sit in the town funds. And the other thought was, after you hit a certain amount of purchase price of property, do you want the citizens involved in making that decision? And I would think yes.
Yeah, I would think so.
You know, and what is that right number? Maybe it's $1 million, maybe it's 2, maybe it's 3, I don't know. But I mean, pretty soon you're gonna be talking real money.
$1 million in real money?
Apparently not.
Well, not for Frank.
Yeah. But, the bottom line on it is you want to, you know, so originally when it came up, the whole idea was basically to construct 2 buckets. One bucket was, here's what they can spend out of. The second bucket is, if you want to go into that bucket and take additional monies out, you've got to come to the voters to get their approval to do so. But that didn't fly, I think at the recommendation or suggestion of town council, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, you can put it in the second bucket, except the second bucket
The second bucket can only last
dumps
one-
itself
one-
out after a year.
1 year. And the problem, as I brought up at the last meeting, is if that second bucket dumps out after a year, it was viewed as revenue, and hence your tax rate's gonna go
Oh, yeah. Instead
following a
of revenue.
sinusoidal curve, as they say in.
Well, does this article address?
Well, it gives the citizens a chance to vote on what happens on that second bucket, I think is the way Jason has it set up now, correct?
What I have at the moment is we drop the second bucket for a moment, which I can dump back in. This has, this simply caps it at $1 million. The way this is now, with this article, it caps it at $1 million, and everything after that proceeds immediately to the general fund. We had a second article, which I can go back and paste back in, which is, it creates that second bucket. And it'll sit in that bucket for a year, and then you have to go back to that next meeting and ask to either put it in the Conservation Commission, or at the risk of making people's heads spin further, put it into a third bucket. And if you put it into a third bucket, like an expendable trust fund, that doesn't go away after a year. However, if you ask to put it in the expendable trust fund bucket and the voters say no, it reverts back to the general fund anyway. So you might kick the can of a spike down 1 more year.
So the point of this is to try and to, you know, make sure that we don't whipsaw the town's tax rate. But at the same time, try and get movement on this. The citizens have pretty much spoken that they want the Conservation Commission to have money to purchase land. I don't have a problem with that. What I'm trying to do is make sure that the citizens are involved once it gets to a certain point in terms of cost. You know, I would hate to see a small group of people making a decision to spend $3+ million of town's property, town's money to go buy something, and then the citizens decide that's not what they want to do. So I guess I'm looking at it that I would be more in favor of the 2 bucket arrangement, with the decision having to be made on a subsequent year where that money moves to. If the citizens want to move it into Conservation Commission bucket, great. If they don't and want to move it into a trust fund, that's fine too.
So does this language take care of that for you?
No, not really, not right
No,
now.
you need this, you need the second bucket back.
You need the second bucket back, which Jason had, I think, in a prior version of this.
I do. Hold on a second.
Because right now, they're very, very close to $1 million in Conservation Commission funds.
Okay. The next one is. Okay. Yikes. prior to the vote. Okay, we're fine with that. If you restore the second bucket, we actually have to, just a note that that second bucket requires a public hearing 15 to 30 days prior to the vote with notice published in 2 places. So
Why is that?
that's what the pesky law says. Because you're creating a new fund. And it's a specially called out fund under state law.
What type of fund is it?
It is a land use change tax fund. And I'm not being flip, but it really is, it's carved out as a special type of fund, so.
No, that's fine, I just
Yep.
wondered.
Okay, so that language is now in here.
Do I have to refresh?
Yeah, it doesn't look pretty yet, so. But it is currently called 14B.
Article 14B?
Yeah, it doesn't have a fancy title on it yet.
Sorry, not seeing it yet.
Huh?
Not seeing it yet.
Where, really?
Is there?
I didn't get it when I did mine.
Are you in warrant 2014?
Yeah, I see it. I got it.
I
14B.
just didn't refresh on mine.
14B, yeah, it's at the top of a physical
Oh, I
page.
got it.
Yep. So just to refresh, shall we adopt the provisions of RSA 79A25 to account for revenues received from the land use change tax in a fund separate from the general fund? Any surplus remaining in the land use change tax fund shall not be part of the general fund until such time as the legislative body shall have had the opportunity at an annual meeting to vote to appropriate a specific amount from the land use change tax fund for that purpose, not prohibited by the laws or constitution of the state. After an annual meeting, any unappropriated balance of the land use change tax revenue received during the prior fiscal year shall be recognized as general fund revenue for the current fiscal year. Any land use change tax which is to be placed in the conservation fund shall be first accounted for as revenue to the land use change tax fund being transferred to the conservation fund at time of collection. So that's 14.
I'll make a motion to recommend the Article 14 as written.
14B, you mean?
It'll be Article 14.
Will be, okay.
Well, no, it'll be Article, no,
15.
it'll be Article 15.
Okay, Article 15 as read as Article 14B.
Yes, yeah, that's what we're calling it 14B at the
Fine,
moment.
I move we
Alright, I'll second
recommend it.
A motion made by Mr. Lemire, seconded by Mr. Bork. Is there further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 400. Now, back to Article 13, which is all started. We still haven't voted on that.
Actually, it will be Article 14, sorry.
Yeah, that's
You
fine.
you were correct the
Article
first time.
13 should go the way of the bison.
It should go away totally?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay,
And then the only one that stays is what was labeled.
14.
Okay, well, if Article 13 goes away, it does away with the 80-20 split altogether. It does away with the million cap. It takes whatever money that comes in automatically goes to the land use change tax fund, and then it gets allocated out,
The 80-20 split was approved at last year's town meeting.
right?
So why would it go away?
Oh, it gets rid of the $1 million cap.
Right.
It
But
gets
that
rid
$1
of,
million cap,
it gets rid, the Article 13 is designed to create the $1 million cap. That's the end result of Article 13. Article
okay,
14B
gotcha. I
picks up
thought-
everything
My
over.
apologies, I thought it was reworded into 14B.
No, they have to be two articles because they're two different purposes.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
So are we still, so do we need to vote on, are we gonna keep the $1 million cap? I thought that was the original goal.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make a motion that we approve or recommend Article 13 as written. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Byron. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 400. We've already voted on that one. That's it, right?
Yep, those are my only open items.
How about Article 16?
60?
16.
Oh,
Did we not vote on that?
We didn't vote on capital
I-
improvement program.
thought,
There's none listed there.
yeah,
It is entirely possible that we voted and your warrant article editor failed to plug it in.
well, let's just do it again, just to make sure it's
So
covered.
moved, Article 16, capital improvement.
Moved by Mr. Lemire, seconded by Mr. Bork. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained, motion carries 400. All right, that should take that. I'll let the budget committee know that there's updated ones on that too, so.
Yep. I'll get it cleaned up.
Yeah, please.
I'll get it cleaned up once tomorrow, but,
Yeah, well, I'll just PDF it and send it over to once you tell me it's cleaned up.
yep.
All right?
Do we
And I'll
need to
update
vote the budget warrant?
We can now that we actually have the numbers, right?
Well, or the budget committee got to change their numbers?
We-
No, the budget committee has to change their numbers.
But we can still vote it.
Yeah, they did, didn't we vote Article 1 though? You were there, I can't remember now. I mean, the operating
I don't
budget.
recollect
Not us,
us
the
voting.
budget committee did, but.
The
numbers will
budget, the
change.
budget committee did vote it, and that because it had their number in, and they said it's gonna be subject to us plugging in our default number.
Yeah, so plug in the default, and
Why would their number be subject to us plugging in the default?
The article is subject to
Article is-
us plugging in the default, sorry.
I mean, they agree that the default budget is the default budget, and there's not much they're gonna do to it. Whatever number we present is the default budget, it's up to us to stand by it.
So I'll move the Article 2 with our default numbers.
You plug in that default in,
I'm getting there.
it's 5,006,000,
There you go. Done.
thank you. So Mr. Lemire moved Article 2, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Bork. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstain? Motion carries 310.
No, I voted aye in favor of. the
Oh,
article,
sorry, 400.
I thought you voted against
I was,
it.
no, I was
There's no delay.
refreshing it to wait to see the number before I voted.
Sorry. All right, that takes care of warrant articles.
If I vote no, I usually say no.
Yeah. Never get in the habit of saying no or yay or whatever, but. All right, other items, Jason, any of this stuff, can we?
Oh, okay, my two other items are gonna be real quick. I was gonna report on energy pricing, I was supposed to sign a contract today, that's been postponed until tomorrow.
Right,
So
okay.
stay tuned at our next meeting. I put some notes down under the informational items. Warrant signing, so, we have a couple things in play here. One is, okay, so this has to be posted by the 28th, which is unfortunately your next meeting. So waiting to your meeting to sign it is going to be after the close of business to get it posted in our multiple places.
How about next Monday with all the other
How
signatures?
about next Monday when it's next Monday's a holiday?
So we still commit till Tuesday, we have to commit
Right.
all minutes.
And given that where we are now, we don't have any items that are discretionary items. I wasn't sure if we would be coming out of tonight with an open item. So we should be able to do that. The other thing that I will tell you is the other reason that this will change one more time, and once it's done, I will send you a note advising it's been published, is the planning board is meeting tomorrow night.
Oh, for their.
So any land use articles we get will be plugged in. So every article number is gonna be changed again anyway.
Yep.
And then we will have that ready for signature. There will be the default budget form I have to go back and fill out, and then following Thursday night, I will prep the MS7, which is, or actually the new MS37, 737, which is the electronic version. That's the Budget Committee's report. So I will plug in your numbers, their numbers, send it to the committee to review and sign. It's
Just-
theirs to assign.
Your information,
I was gonna
What?
say, I didn't
planning
think there
board's
was
not
plan.
meeting tomorrow night.
No, it's
Planning board's meeting
21st.
Oh, sorry,
21st.
the 21st.
He has that in his
That's
notes
why,
too.
that's why I was
Oh,
looking at it.
okay.
Like,
Oh,
unless there's a
sorry.
meeting I don't know
Oh.
about.
Yeah, he has it in his notes since 21st, but otherwise.
Sorry,
Okay.
I
All
forgot.
right, so when are we gonna sign?
Oh, okay, which means you can't very well sign it on the 21st, because I won't have anything back from their
So
hearing
we'll have
that
to,
night.
you'll have to aim sign on the 22nd, as you said in your note.
So on the 21st, the
Yep.
planning board will have to make a decision because that's their drop dead date.
Yep,
So the bottom line on it is, And I don't know, maybe you can riddle me this question. Has Jen started to draft, for the planning board, warrant article like,
The actual language, I will confirm with her and see and
Because if-
reinforce the deadline.
if she does that, then we can just come into the office and sign it on the,
Yeah, I'll give you a heads up on the 22nd and say it's good to go.
but you're gonna need those warrant article type things, from the planning board
Yep.
before you,
Yeah, I'll confirm with Jen tomorrow that everything is language ready for the warrant. Okay.
All right. Okay, is that it, Jason?
That's all I have.
Selectmen reports, anybody have anything they want to report? I would just say that, as I said earlier, the Budget Committee had their meeting last week. We finalized their bottom line. Barring any more changes, I think we're in pretty much good shape at this point. And the budget hearing meeting is Thursday, 7 o'clock at Campbell High School Auditorium, followed by a meeting afterwards by the Budget Committee. Mr. Byron?
yeah, as I said earlier, there's a planning board meeting the 21st. There will be public hearings on proposed amendments to the zoning ordinances, and I think a couple changes to the planning board regulations, but that's about it. So,
Mr. Lemire, you have anything?
I don't.
Mr. Bork?
Nope.
I do have a question, and that is, on my agenda coming up on the 16th, which is this Thursday at 7 PM, there's the budget hearing.
Correct, I just made that announcement.
Right.
Yeah.
So we all need to be there, right?
Oh yeah, we do all need to be there.
Okay.
Yep, I obviously plan on being there because I'm sitting on the board, but
And I will be at another budget hearing.
at least the three of us will be there, so.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
okay.
I don't anticipate any actions we have to take, but. We have to post,
Put
we should
that
post
on
like the
the
meeting
calendar.
too, right? Because we're all there. So Jason, can we get that posted as a
We'll post that.
And
potential impromptu?
7 PM.
And as a form of question, is it something that you want to put out there as an agenda, that the board may have a meeting after the budget hearing, so that we could take any action at that
Yeah.
point?
Yes.
That's what I was just suggesting.
Yep, that was, if I was going to go through the exercise of posting it, I will create the opportunity.
I don't anticipate anything. I think the town and the budget, the town side and the budget committee are, we may have our disagreements on certain things, but I think for the most part, we're pretty much in sync. We all have the right intent, so. Okay, other business. There was one other item that was brought up regarding the rec commission.
Yep.
Mr. Bork, you want to speak to that?
So they reached out to me. They're looking for us to approve a donation from Specialty Kitchens. They'd like to donate a stove. It's a stove oven unit. I believe Keith has spoke to Kevin Lynch and the fire chief and got the approval of the installation to use the unit. So what they're looking for us to do is approve this for them. It's mainly going to be used as a warming unit. It's not going to be used as.
Is it inside or out?
It's inside. Would be
The
inside town hall. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what's the value of the stove? I mean, what's the
They
mechanics
just want to
about
go through the right
something?
change as far as
Yep.
getting the approval from us.
Yeah, I mean, you're accepting an item of value, so it should really go through here.
Yep.
The only thing we have to do, though, is we have to put it onto the agenda, so it has to be listed on an agenda.
Which is what my feedback to, Keith got me the information on it
Yep.
Friday afternoon after the
Posted,
agenda
yeah.
had already been
let's
finalized
just-
and posted. So I told him I put it on the next meeting so I can have the value listed.
I told them I would bring it up tonight,
Yep.
Okay.
which is fine. That's fine.
Yeah, so let's get on the next agenda, and if Keith wants to come in and speak to it, it's great. Otherwise, Kevin and still liaison can speak to it, and
Okay.
we'll
Yeah,
just.
yeah, I mean, it's pretty straight. I mean, we're talking about a $200 item. We're not talking about
Yeah,
a
no, I figured that much.
massive item.
Anything else? We have a non-public, so we'll be going into non-public, so.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we go into non-public under RSA 91, finger
A3, Roman numeral 2, section
C.
60, 80.
Matters which, if discussed in public, would likely affect adversely the reputation of any persons or any other members of the public body itself, unless such person requests an open meeting. Roll call vote. Mr. Bork?
Yes.
Mr. Lemire?
Yes.
Mr. Brunel, yes. Mr. Byron?
Yes.
We will be in, so we're gonna be going into non-public. We'll only